Welcome to B.A.Showoff, the Dance Lifestyle Podcast. I'm Becky.
And I'm Alexandra. And whether you're a dance coach, dance parent, or a dancer yourself, this is the show for you.
So today we're going to be talking about auditions. So whether you're auditioning to be in middle school, high school, college, or pro, these are the things that you should know.
So why don't we kick this off by talking about how you run your audition and your audition process?
So my auditions, I start off with 2 days of clinic. And in those 2 days of clinics, we teach across the floor exercises, doing a little bit of improv in between. And then we have like a jazz/contemporary combo and a hip hop combo. And both my jazz and my hip hop combos, we send to the dancers the weekend before. So my clinic starts Monday, but on Friday, they'll get a video that has what the combos are, so they kind of learn it on their own before they come to our actual clinic. And what we do at the clinic, we kind of break it down for them and just clean it up a little bit and just go through the specific counts for the routines. But I started doing that during COVID, and I saw that it kind of helped the dancers a little bit more. They're so nervous while they're there, and it's so much information being thrown at them. And I really want to see them dance. I want to see what they look like when they're confident and they're performing. So they still learn across the floor those 2 days, but they're combos. They get to learn them early on and gives them a little bit more time to perfect them. And then on that Wednesday is my actual tryout. We try out 3 at a time. And the 3 dancers do everything. So they'll do across the floors. They do their their jazz, contemporary combo, and then their hip hop combo. We'll do a little improv in each of those combos, and then that's pretty much it. So it's a pretty quick audition, and usually I pick between 18 and 20 on varsity, and somewhere between 22 and 24 on JV.
And who choreographs your routines for the auditions?
So my officers this year will choreograph the routines for the upcoming team. So they'll split it up. One of them will do the contemporary jazz one. The other one does the hip hop. They'll do across the floor. I give them the technique that I want, what I want in the across the floor. So I'll tell them, what specific turns I want. Any specific kick or jump that I want to see the dancers do, I'll ask them to do that. And then really, if there's something that a dancer could do that we didn't have in the across the floor of the combos, they could always stick it in the improv. And we kind of encourage them to, show off in their improv section anything that they hadn't done up to that point. We also do a mock tryout. So that Tuesday when we're done, going through the routines and cleaning, we do mock tryouts. So we put them 3 at a time, and they go with the same people they're going to audition with, and they do the whole audition process. So they kind of get used to who they're dancing with.
And how many do you normally do at a time?
3.
Okay, yeah. And then when it comes to rounds, do you only do one round?
So I only do 1 round. And I really don't need to see much more than what I give them. So much information and so many different dances that I really don't need to see any more. But I do make sure that I have a big panel of judges. I don't score. I don't judge it. I like to stay neutral. And it's kind of hard for me because since I work with them throughout the year, I don't think it's fair that I see somebody that I've been working with all year long versus somebody who I've never seen. I feel like I'm going to give, preference to the ones that I know. So I'll be like, I know that they could hit that triple. Let me give them the extra point because I know they could do it. So it's just not fair. So I don't judge them. I sit there very neutral. I do the scoring, the adding of scores, and I have some of my alumni. They're helping me, making sure that I'm not missing anything or I'm not doing anything wrong. But I always have a panel of former courettes. Everybody on my panel has been on courettes at some point. So I think that it's cool because they know what it's like to be in the shoes of all the kids auditioning. And I usually have somewhere between 8 and 10 judges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think having an unbiased panel of judges is always good too, because then nobody can come back and say, well, you didn't choose me for your team because you don't like me. Yeah. Or, you chose that person because you like them. It makes it a little bit easier for it to be very non-political.
Yeah, and I think that having a different amount of judges, so I have so many there. Dance World is very small. So every single judge at some point is going to know one of the dancers. So I feel like, well, if I have more judges, there's more of a chance that there's, people are not going to know different ones, and they'll, have more fair scoring across the board. I don't do dropping the lowest and the highest. I used to do that a long time ago, but I really didn't think that it made much of a difference to drop lowest and highest. It doesn't really, affect the dancers in any way. I also have a section that is recommendation, that is the points that I give them, and those points are the recommendation they get from their teachers and their grades and attendance. So I do take that into consideration in the tryouts with me, because I think it's so important that their academics are up to par. They have to have a certain GPA, and I need to make sure that they're at that certain GPA before they try out, and that teachers have recommended them. So not just their dance teacher, but academic teachers know, yes, they could handle the extra load, because it's not just if they're a good enough dancer, is can they handle missing school? Can they handle the extra practices, the extra hours is taken away from their studies? So are these dancers that could handle that? So I like to make sure that the recommendation points are in there, and it is included in their total score.
So you obviously have a very special situation for most schools. You are a magnet program. Do you feel that, is there anything that when they're auditioning or prior to auditioning that you require them to have, such as skills or any prerequisites that they need to have in order to try out in the first place?
Well, they have to be in the Magnet Dance program. So in order to be in the Magnet Dance program, you had to have auditioned and you had to have been in that program, and you're there for 4 years. So that's the first requirement. You can't be in another academy. You can't be, a different program. It has to be in dance. So I already am limited at how many kids are going to try out for me, because there's 115 or so dancers in the Magnet Dance program. So I'm already limited. I'm not going to have 100 kids trying out for varsity. But I know that every kid who tries out, they're technically able to do most of the things that I require. So I'll send out and I'll post on the bulletin board what the different skills are that we're looking for. And it doesn't mean that every single one of those skills are going to be in the tryout. I just need to make sure that all these skills are important. And if I say, okay, there's an aerial, there's a 540, there's a butterfly, there's this, I might not have the butterfly in the tryouts. But if I give them to you, I know that you're working towards all those. What I find funny is that kids will push themselves so much for tryouts.
Yes.
If they don't have the aerial, they're going to push themselves so much, and they'll all be able to do an aerial at tryouts. But then come a month later, and we're like, okay, so let's do aerials. Okay, so who has a good aerial? And then all of a sudden, there's only 3 people. And I'm like, so what happened? Everybody did it at tryouts. So I think that the kids, they definitely can do all these techniques and all these skills. When the pressure's on, they're going to get it done. And I feel like if I give them all these skills that I want, they're going to make sure they have them for tryouts.
Yeah, absolutely. And giving them those skills, that they're going to have to work towards them.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that it could be in the combo, or it could be in the across the floor. So I don't tell them exactly which one it's going to be in. The other funny thing is that we put in hip hop skills and hip hop tricks, but I usually don't do tricks for nationals. But it's important that they could do them, because we do pep rallies and we do other events in the school, which they might need to be able to do those. So I need to make sure, again, that they could do those tricks and all those skills, because it could come up at another point in the year. So
yeah, absolutely.
So what's your tryout process like?
So I have a lot of similarities, few differences. First, I start off with sending out a registration form. It's a personalized registration form that I made a few years ago. We have our list of, our explanation of, what tryouts are. We have like a mini contract on the bottom. Basically says, whatever decisions are made, they're made. And I ask them a lot of questions about themselves, if they train at studio, what kind of dancer they are. And I actually have them upload a video of themselves as well as a headshot. We really don't judge based off of the video, but we like to kind of see their versatility. And then I have the headshots there for future reference, so it'll help my panel of judges. Very similar. I close out my registration form the Sunday before, and I send out my videos that my seniors, that all of my seniors send out to the girls. So they choreograph a jazz, hip hop, or a contemporary hip hop, and an across the floor, and it's a one shot across the floor. So it's kicks, turns, jumps, everything in one across the floor. We don't have our clinics until the following Tuesday. So that Tuesday was just basically a review day. They should know all of their combos by then. And we have our seniors review everything. Wednesday is when I have my panel of judges come in. I have 5 to 6 judges. Very similar. I do not score. I don't do any of that for same reasons. And I actually do drop the lowest and the highest score, mostly because there's times where they're all over the place. And, you know, I've had in the past dancers come to me and ask, well, why did I get a 5 here and a 2 here? So it just makes it a little easier to make it a lot more fair and a closer average. At that point, I do my first round of cuts. And normally what I do is I select all of the girls. I am an all-girls school, so it's only girls for me. But I submit all of the girls from my lowest scoring student from the year before and up. Normally I get about 40 kids in that range. Then we do all the combos again, just kind of see, and I have judges actually write down their numbers. And I have them do, you know, an extra across the floor of just improv, and I'll change up the music. I also have certain skills that I'm requiring from them, so that's also a good opportunity for them. Any skills that they haven't done before, or that weren't in the combo that they want to show us, they do it there in the improv. And then that's my second round of cuts. So all the girls that make it through those second rounds, I invite them to the following day. I don't separate my teams based on grades. I separate it by talent. So that third day is my day for me to choose my teams. That is when myself and my other coach will sit there and we will choose the teams.
So that third day, everybody who's there is on one or the other team. Nobody
Yes.
else is going to get cut at that point.
At that point,
so they
nobody
know
else is
I've made it this far. I'm going to be on the team.
Right, yes. So they know they're going to make it on the team at whatever caliber, but they're going to make it on the team. And what I normally do is I have them relearn 2 combos. So that day before, if I said, congratulations, you made Lord's Dancers, you've made it to the final round. Tomorrow we will be choosing our teams. And I will actually send them 2 videos. One of each choreographer, each varsity choreographer has, you know, come up with, or I'll have one, like this year I have my varsity hip hop choreographer coming in he submitted a video of himself teaching a combo, and they have to learn it the day before. And then I have my varsity jazz choreographer's assistant, Nicole. She's going to come in and actually teach a combo, since she is very familiar with that style. And that for me is really good because I get to see how they do the varsity choreographer style. Mm-hmm. And that kind of helped me to determine which team they should be on. At that point is when I choose the teams. We do our final cut then, and then we have our team.
How do you pick how many kids are going to be on each team?
So normally it's been different every year. This year with the division changes, or last year with the division changes, I was able to up my numbers with varsity. Now I don't have a limit. Now I moved from small to large. But I think this year we found our sweet spot of 16 on varsity, 18 on JV. We have discussed that if there is enough talent, if there is enough varsity potential from girls that we take on to JV, like new girls, we don't mind growing each team. But I think that that's kind of where we found our sweet spot, and we normally don't like to go any higher than 20 per team.
Yeah. I think the cool thing too with UDA, once they did the rule of, you know, you could change around who's in what routine, you could add a little bit more to your team, because now you have dancers who might be really strong in hip hop and not as strong in the contemporary world. So, okay, well, they could definitely be in the hip hop routine, and then vice versa. For me, it's, you know, when I pick how many are going to be in the routine, in the team, I want approximately 20 kids on my team. But if the cutoff of the scores are close, so let's say my highest score is 100 and I have a bunch of them at the 90, 91, 92. If I have a huge gap, all of a sudden it goes from 90 to 80, I know that's where I cut.
Right.
So wherever that lands, that's where I cut off. So that, you know, that's why I could take 18. 18 is a great number. I love 20, but I've gone as far as 22. Right. And with JV, I always take a little bit more because I feel that JV, they're not sure what they're getting themselves into yet, and there might be one, maybe two that decide, oh no, this is much more than what I expected, and don't get to follow through. And that's happened in the past to me, that, you know, kids will be on the team and then within, you know, a month or two, they're like, I can't, this is too much for me, and they have to, you know, quit. So I'd rather take a little bit more just in case. And also, I just feel like I could give so many kids an opportunity to be on the team, even if, they're an alternate for both dances. Now that I do game day, they get to be in game day because everybody's in game day. But they're an alternate for the other two. At least they get game day and they get to be in pep rallies and stuff like that. So, for me, taking a little bit more is actually a nice thing.
That's why I actually enjoy not doing my teams by grades, because I'm able to allow kids more opportunity. So, I feel like if they're not like ready by their junior year to be on varsity, I'm able to give them that extra year on JV to prepare and maybe be able to move up to varsity their senior year. And it allows them the opportunity to grow more, me to continuously give them feedback, tell them this is what you need to do to improve, and they will. I mean, a lot of these kids are extremely dedicated. Yeah. But it gives them a lot more opportunity.
Yeah, and I think that, I do the same thing you do with a contract, and giving a registration, a contract helps the dancers know what they have to do and what your expectations are. So like I know in my contract that I send out, I include in there a lot of information on what the year is going to be like, what the expenses are, what they're required to do, what the practice is, kind of what the practice schedule is going to be like. And I think that when dancers know what they're getting themselves into, it's a little bit easier for them to make a decision. Like if they know this is a Monday through Friday after school every single day and some Saturdays, and it's going to be this much money, and do I really want to dedicate my year to this? And they might back out.
And I'll include, because what I do is like on the top portion of my Google form, I'll put like these are all of our dates for camp and things like that. And a lot of people will be like, I don't want to dedicate my entire summer to dance team. I have a trip planned to Europe for 2 months, and that's great. That's awesome. But it becomes harder. And we talked about this previously. I start a lot of my choreography in May, so I need to know your dedication by day one. Yeah. So it gives a lot more opportunity for people to really understand what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah, and dance team, anybody who's in dance knows, but dance team is expensive.
Yes.
And, it's not just the costumes, bringing in choreographers, the actual competitions themselves, the extra stuff that comes with it, the uniforms that you need to have. There's so much that goes with it. The team shoes, the team backpack, the team garment bag.
There's always those little details.
Yeah, there is you think that there's a lot with regular dance studio stuff, and dance team, there's all those little extra things. It gets costly, so kids really need to know that they do want to do this, and they do love being a part of this dance team world, or dance in general, because your parents are giving up a lot. They might be giving up a trip to Europe that summer because between all the practices and how expensive it is, this is not the year to go to summer. For the summer to go to Italy or to Europe or wherever, we're going to have to cut back somewhere else so that you could have this experience. Right. And I will say it's worth every penny.
Yeah. I know parents will say it.
And they do. And they look back and they're like, it was worth spending the money. But as long as the kid is happy doing it. So one of my advice, and I think that this is not just for my team, but for high school, I think for, even middle school, which is not as time consuming, but still even middle school, for college, for pro, you need to do your research. You need to really look at what you're getting yourself into, and that you're not just trying out for the giggles and just, hey, how much fun, I love this. That okay, well, this is what this team is expecting me to do. This is what they do. This is how much it costs. This is what they do throughout the year besides competition, because there's a lot that goes on without, even putting competition. If you're going to do like a college team or a pro team, you need to know about the school. You need to know about the team. If you're going to be a Dolphin cheerleader, you need to know, who the Dolphins owner is, who the players are, what their schedule is like. You need to know football terms and stuff like that. So doing your research and looking into these things are so important that I don't think dancers really take that into account. So if you're going to come try out for my team, you should know the history of what my team has done, and where we are when it comes to competition, and what we do and what our strengths are, so that when you're auditioning to come to Coral Reef and you're trying out to be on the team, you already have a feel of, okay, this is what it's going to be like. Look at videos, look at Instagram, look at social media, and see what the team is all about before you put yourself into it, because it's a lot more than what you think sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of my favorite questions that I always get from, not always, but there's a lot of times where I'll always have one parent that says, like, does my child need to have dance experience to be on the team? No, but it'll help. Unless you're a prodigy that you've never trained in your life.
Yeah, you
I
can't.
really highly doubt that.
There's no way that you can do this and not have the basic training.
Yeah.
And I think that goes with all like even for the pros. I mean, you don't have to be a prima ballerina, but you need to have that ballet training when you're going to be a pro football dancer, or you need to know, how to hold the palms. You need to know, just your
technique,
body posture. Yeah, and there's just so much that goes with it that if you don't have that basic, you're going to struggle. There's no way that you're going to get on that team.
Yeah, I mean, I never like to discourage people, but normally I kind of guide them. I'm like, if you have any questions, follow our Instagram, take a look at our videos, get an idea.
It's not a matter of discouraging as much as I think it's realistic. It's being realistic, and you're not going to go out for a high school football team and have never played football in your life. So you're going to have at least, thrown the ball around, maybe played at a little football league at some point, know the rules of the game. You would have done something before you put yourself out there, because if not, what's going to happen to you? You're going to get hurt. Yeah. You're not going to make it. You're going to be offended and pissed and whatever, and you're going to say, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And then at that point, it's too late. You just hurt yourself. So I think at a minimum, you need to have some type of basic training before you put yourself out there. And I think dance teams nowadays are so competitive that you can't get away with that anymore. Even, like I said, even middle school, you could try a little bit there, but if they're a competitive middle school, you need that.
Luckily, normally, most of those parents turn away once they realize the actual commitment level, which is why bringing in the contract is so important, because even if you've been competing at a studio all your life, it's so different. It's so much easier to restage a dance in the studio dance than it is a dance team dance. Dance team dances are constantly moving. And being a part of a team, it is about your team. So coming on to your team for the very first time, you are making yourself a part of something that if you are no longer there, you are letting your team down. And it's not an injury. It has nothing to do with that. It's my commitment level is the same commitment level as the person next to me. And my heart is in it just as much as the person next to me's is. And coming on to these dance teams, you need to have the understanding that this is no longer about me as a dancer. It is what am I going to do for my team? How am I going to better myself for my team? And what am I going to do for my team? And not everybody understands that, especially walking onto a team for the very first time.
No, I used to, back many years ago when I first started Core Reef, we used to get dancers who would audition that didn't have any dance training to get into the Magnet Dance program. And even back then, when we didn't have, the name that we have now and, didn't have that reputation, it's still, very discouraging for those kids who would come in and find themselves in a ballet class. They had never taken a ballet class in their life and not know what to do and be lost. And it was heartbreaking for them. So many of them would just walk out in the middle of the audition. So it's not just because we're trying to, make kids, we're not trying to hurt them, and we're not trying to, only take the best dancers. It is hard, and there's a lot of work that comes with preparing to be in a dance program and being in a magnet school and being in a dance team. There's so much that goes to it that it's kind of like, it's disrespectful to think you could just walk into something, never have had any experience, and get on.
Yeah.
So you really need to do your research. You really, really need to prepare. It's just like preparing for an interview, for a job, or studying for an exam. It's the same thing. You need to know what you're doing. And I really highly suggest that dancers look before they try anything. Look at what you're doing, because there's so much that goes with it. And how competitive it is now in dance. I mean, there's competitive dance team prep classes all over the place. So whether you're trying to go into a high school, you're trying to go to middle school, you're trying to go into college, or all these programs, everyone has prep classes, and they do that for a reason, because they're trying to get the dancers to be ready for those tryouts.
And I was going to say that one of the things that I do, and part of me does it for the fundraising, but then another part is to actually prepare students who are coming into audition. We do hold a prep class, and it'll be run by our seniors, and they basically are I give them a list of skills that I want. We'll do like acro skills over here, we'll do a hip hop combo over here, and we'll do a jazz combo over here, and they just kind of get a little taste of everything. And a lot of times, especially when parents ask me things like, does my child need to have prior experience or how much prior experience? I'll let them know, we're holding a prep class. If you want to bring them in, that way they can kind of get an understanding and see if this is something that they want to do, if this is something they want to follow through with. So coaches, if you have the ability to do something like that where you can hold a prep class, give an idea of what your program is all about, what are some of the things you do, I highly recommend it. And it is a great fundraiser. I think I charged $20 a kid, and this year I think I had 80 kids come.
Nice.
So it was great. Yeah. It's an easy fundraiser, something that goes back to the students, and it's 2 hours. It's 2 hours, one day.
And it's not just you doing it, but a lot of studios, they do them also. Like here in Miami, I every week I was seeing new prep classes popping up all over the place. I know that the Dolphins, they'll have like prep classes before they have their actual auditions. I just saw that the Sensations, they were having prep classes. They did for like 3 weekends before. I know that other colleges do it. It is great to do that. That's a great opportunity to go out there and see, okay, let me go to the prep class and see what it's like. So that this is something I can do, or is this something that's, way too easy for me, out of my league. Gives you a little bit better idea. And it also helps you see the people who are going and what you're up against. So if you do have the opportunity to go to these prep classes, I highly, highly recommend. They're usually not expensive. And, a lot of classes, if they do them at studios, are $20, $25 for a class, not expensive, to kind of get yourself ready. And if, the teams do like what we do, that we give skills from ahead of time, saying these are the things that we're looking for. And I think that a lot of dance teams throughout the country do that. What you need to work on in the dance studio. So go to the studio and get those things, worked on, and get those skills going. It's another way of saying, don't leave studio. Keep going to studio, keep training, because that way you're ready to, when these tryouts come out, that you're ready to make it on these teams. And, we want the best dancers, but the best dancers are always training. Yeah,
and I think on the flip side, too, it also gives you an opportunity to get in front of the coaches. Whether you're doing a professional team, high school team, middle school team, whatever it is, it gives an opportunity for you to be in front of them and for them to get to know who you are and see, like, oh, that girl, she has an aerial. We don't have anybody on the team that has that. And, that's really interesting. And then automatically the coach is going to watch you more. So the more face time you can give them, the better. And also, I highly encourage students to go back to the coaches and say, if you have any feedback for me, please let me know. And a lot of times, especially if you've kind of caught under their radar, they will give you plenty of feedback.
Yeah. I have kids at the end of tryouts every single year. The ones that don't make it will always come to me and be like, what can I work on for next year? Yes. And I'll look at their score sheets, and I let my kids look at their score sheets. I don't let them see everybody's scores.
Yes.
I let them see their scores, and I tell them, always show them what the cutoff was, so that they know. Yes. The last kid I took had 90 total. You had 70. So they see where they were. So, they understand how far they are, and they look at their comments, and they get to look at all their scores. And I also tell all my judges to give as many comments as possible. Yeah, very important. I tell them the ones that are clearly like you're scoring them high, you don't need to give them as many comments, because they're going to make it. So, they're fine. It's the kids who are borderline, who are just going to make it or not make it. I want them to know why were they where they were at and what they need to work on. So I make my judges give as many comments as possible. So when those kids come back, and even the ones that, end up being an alternate or they're low, their scores are low, they get to see, oh, these are the things that I wasn't doing well. I got to work on these. And there's kids that'll come back year after year, trying to get on the team, and they work on those skills. I'll see them from one year to the next. I'll be, wow, what a difference. And this kid has really worked hard. And I love that. I love that they have that opportunity to be better and show me that they're better. And my kids are, we're training all year long regardless, because they're in a magnet dance program. So they're taking classes regardless at the school. So whether or not they're going to the studio, it doesn't matter. They're still training. But if they really, this is their goal, is to get on the team, they should double train. They should get those skills that they're weak on and go to the studio and try to work on them.
And I know you and I have very similar score sheets. So why don't you talk a little bit about what is on our score sheets? What are some of the things we look at, or some of the things we have judges score them on?
So I do 3 across the floors in the beginning. So one has to do with jumps, one is about kicks, and one's turns. So the score sheet will have those 3 things: jumps, turns, and leaps on there. And the scores are 1 through 5. So they're letting me know, okay, if their leaps are great, they're good prep, straight legs, body posture, line, everything's good, they're going to get the 5. If they can't get off the floor, they're going to get that 1. So the judges will give me points there, and then there's a section there on the side for them to write a comment. So, maybe they had a great double, maybe a great triple, but they're not hitting those quads. They could put that quads are weak, not using your plie, not spotting. Like, they could give me little comments like that so the kids know. My second portion is the combos. And the combos, it'll include their performance quality, their memory, their facials, so that way we know where it is that they need to work on in each of the combos. So if it's the contemporary and the jazz one, I ask for that. And in the hip hop, I ask for that too. Their energy level. And again, there is sections there that the judges could give me comments and tell me what they need to work on. And then there's an overall performance. So their overall look, their overall performance, their performance quality, anything else that they want to add there, that's where they put them. And then at the end, it's the recommendation.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that, especially the way that they walk in and look, like if their hair is all over the place, if they're wearing a lot of jewelry, if... I know that you hate the hair tie on the wrist.
No gum.
Little
earrings. They shouldn't have hoops.
I normally tell my kids, if you have hoops, if you can stick your pinky finger in your hoop, it's way too big. Yeah. I always recommend the studded earrings, light makeup, like mascara, a little bit of blush and lip gloss, like just looking your best. Because it really is. You are selling yourself to these judges, come out there and look your best. Make sure
and that's another moment where you need to do your research, because you need to see, or you could DM on social media and ask, what do you need from us, or what should we wear? All those questions. I mean, in my contract it says it that they have to wear, black leotard and black tights. Right. They have to wear black top, black short, whatever it is. But others, they might not be so specific. If you're going for a college dance team, you might want to DM them and ask questions like that. What should we wear? What do you expect hair-wise? Because there might be a dance team that likes the hair down when they do the tryouts. There might be some that, like, I want the hair slicked. I want to see their face. I want that dancer look. So all those things are questions that if you're not sure, and you look back and ask and see, go onto the social media and ask those questions. I have no problem, even if they DM me personally, asking me questions, or they send me an email, I will answer, because I want the kid to be ready when they come try out for me.
Yeah, and you want them to look the part.
Yes,
sure.
Absolutely.
I did, years back, I did auditions for Dolphin cheerleaders. And I remember the first day I went with my hair straight. Second day I went with my hair, or it was the opposite. First day I went with my hair curled. Second day I went with my hair straight. And I remember that the feedback that one of the judges, or the coaches, gave me was, come with your hair curled. We like it better when you have your hair curled versus straight. I was like, oh, okay, great. So then I knew from, the following day, curl my hair. I know that in the pro league, a lot of times they'll say, let's look, and they'll say, we prefer your hair to be this color, or we prefer for you to wear this type of outfit. And, make sure that you are getting that kind of feedback from these coaches and seeing what it is that maybe they feel that you might look best in, and really pay attention to that.
Yeah, listen to that, because they're giving you that feedback for a reason. And again, social media is great when it comes to this, because you can go back on their social media and look at their tryouts from last year and look at the videos they have posted and see what they were wearing and see the girls who made it and how they looked, so that you have an idea of, like, this is what they're looking for, this is what they want. Every team is different, and, every coach is different in those things. So looking back and asking, I think it will help a lot of you get to those dance teams that you want.
Yeah. And what is your process for your alternates? I know you and me have some different ways that we choose our alternates.
So my alternates usually are either dancers who were on the team and just scored really low, or somebody who's right there. There's a little bit of a gap, and they're right there, and it's just, there's not enough of a big gap, but there is a gap between them and the last person I'm taking. So if my goal is to have 18 on varsity, and the next 4 kids are they're equal and they're strong enough, I will take the next 4 and I will tell them, you guys are alternates. And my alternate process could, change. So when we get to camp, that might change. I might decide, you know what, they're strong enough. They just had a bad tryout and they're on the team. But really, the alternates just have to work that much harder to make sure that they could try out for to be on the routines. And my choreographers get to pick who's in the routine, but I will always let them know these are my alternates, so they know those are the alternates. Keep it in mind that those are either they were weak when they tried out, or they're still struggling. There's something they lack still. They're still working to get onto the team, so they keep that in mind. But I let my choreographers choose. I want to have 16 people in the dance, and these are the 16 that I pick.
Yeah, so mine is a little bit different. I bring on all of my kids onto the team. I actually have 3 sets of evaluations throughout the year. So I have beginning of year evaluations that I do at camp, mid-season evaluations that I do before we go to Christmas break, and then I have end of season evaluations, which is like right before end of the year show, before our tryouts, all of that. So in the beginning of season evaluations, I normally will kind of discuss with them things that I feel they need to work on. Hey, you know what, you scored really low in hip hop in auditions, and I was taking a look at you in camp, and I'll normally do it at camp, so I get to watch them a little bit more, and that'll kind of give them a better idea of if they're at risk of being an alternate or not. And then I have my choreographers actually choose my alternates, mostly because I want them to understand that this is something that's coming from somebody unbiased. And it does also give kids the opportunity to show off to these choreographers. Like, I know my jazz choreographers, especially both Caitlin and Andrew, they'll ask these girls, show me what tricks you have, show me what's your favorite skill, and they'll do stuff, and some girls might not even come out and do anything, and they'll just kind of stand there, and then they'll ask, why did I get chosen as an alternate? What was the feedback, whatever? And I'll let them know, you didn't do anything to show the choreographers that you belong in that dance. You're the one that shouldn't have been chosen as an alternate. So it also gives them the ability to outperform themselves and prove themselves to the choreographers. So it's worked for us thus far. Obviously, the girls aren't always happy about the decision, but I feel like a lot of times my alternates end up being some of the strongest kids on my team. They end up being the ones that at the end of the year score 10 points higher than they did the year before. And I think that that's something that kids really need to understand about being an alternate. Alternates are really the backbone of the team, are really the ones that they have to know everybody's part. It helps them improve so much in dance because they have to be working 150% when everybody else is working 110. Yeah.
They definitely have to be the hardest workers on the team. And
I think, and everybody relies on them. I've had some alternates that have literally been the superheroes. I had a girl a few years ago on my JV team that she, as we're on practice mat, got injured. Like, I think she thought that she had a concussion. I don't remember what injury it was, but she was not well and she was sobbing. And I looked at my alternate, I was like, time to jump in. And 2 minutes before we went on stage, she jumped in, she figured it out, and went on stage, and they did amazing. So, these alternates really they need to be a special kind of student in order to be.
I had an alternate last year, not this year that just passed, the year before, for JV, and she wasn't in the hip hop routine. She was heartbroken, and I knew that she could do it, but she just didn't do a great job when the choreographers were there and they picked. I mean, she just didn't stand out. I think that she held herself back. She was a little shy, and this kind of taught her, like, you can't be shy. You have to, when it comes down to things like this, you've got to put yourself out there. You've got to show off completely. So one of the girls got injured right before we went to our first regional, and she jumped in. I gave her the opportunity to be in it. I'm like, okay, well, this is your chance now to be in the dance. No promises that you can be in nationals, but at least you get to do it at a regionals. And she did such an amazing job because it was somebody who was the head, like in the front center, had solo moments. So it wasn't an easy person for you to have to fill in for. And she did incredible. So we came back from that regionals, and I told the choreographers I'm putting her in, and I restaged the whole dance, and we were able to put her in the dance. And I think she was so appreciative, but at the same time, she understood if you work really hard, you don't do it the first time around, you're not going to get it. But if you work really hard, things are going to be given to you. The opportunity will be there. And she learned it, and she just did a spectacular job, and she got to do nationals at that point. And, I was so happy, and I was so proud of her for putting herself in that position of, showing off and saying, look, I could do it. But every alternate doesn't do that. And I have some years that the alternates, they kind of like, okay, well, I'm an alternate, and they're on the side, and I'll look to the side and they're talking, or they're like, oh, what? Because they kind of give up. They feel like, I'm never going to be in there. But you never know, because till that last moment, you could be the one that gets put in. And, I think sometimes alternates, if they don't push themselves and don't put themselves in that position of every single time I'm doing it full out like everybody else, that opportunity is going to be taken away from you. So alternates are super, super important. And I guess for me, it's different. My kids, regardless, will be in game day. So everybody gets to be in a nationals routine. So I guess that it's a little different because you're going to perform at nationals. But when you only have the jazz and hip hop, and those are your only two opportunities, and you're not in either one of those, and there's nothing else, you've got to work so hard there on the side so that everybody sees you and takes note of, look how hard they're working, and gives you that opportunity.
Right. Well, with my alternates, I alternate them. So I'll never have the same alternate for the routines. And I normally only have one, partially because I like giving them the opportunity to be on stage. And a lot of times I'll hold them back on JV if I feel like to JV. If I feel like they're not quite ready for either routine, they could have another year on JV. I'd rather keep them there than have them in both. But I know that you do it by grade, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and I put a lot more people on my team than you do. Mm-hmm. So I'll have, like I said, I've had as many as 22 on varsity. This year I had 25 on JV, which is like the most I've ever had.
You did have a very big JV this year.
It was a lot. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to be in the jazz or the hip hop. I mean, I still might only have 18 in the routine, but it gives everybody more of an opportunity to be one or the other. And then my game day is huge. So right. 25 kids on the mat for game day was great. I mean, just the visuals are so great. The formation changes. It's nice to, like, for game day to have that many kids on the stage. And with UDA's rule of you're able to swap out and you're able to have more in one dance than the other as long as you stay in your division, it helps in that sense also, because it used to not be like that. It used to be that you had to keep the same dancers. So if you had 14 in jazz, the exact same 14 had to be in hip hop. You couldn't alternate. And then they allowed you to do, okay, well, you could swap out 3 and 4, whatever. So those changes have really helped throughout the years. And UDA does that, but not all the routine, the competitions do that. I mean, there's other competitions and they don't have those really strict specific rules. But with UDA, because those rules are still kind of strict, even though they've opened up a little bit, you still have to stay within those boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely.
So once you pick your team, what happens at that point?
So the first thing I do is I have a parent and student meeting. We normally do it through Zoom. And the number one thing we cover is our calendar and our contract. So though I've pretty much provided them already with their contract, I like reviewing it anyway. Sometimes people don't read it on their own and they just kind of sign up for it anyway. So I make sure to review every single point, answer every single question. That way there's no lingering questions about it. And I go through our calendar. One of the things that I have found most useful about my calendar and the way I've set it up, I've actually done it through like a Google Drive. So I have a live calendar going on. So any sort of changes, updates, where we'll be having practice, what days competitions are, if we have an extra weekend practice, whatever it is, I let parents know. As I add dates, as I change times, I am updating it in the calendar. So people are able to go in, see it at all times, and they're able to basically follow me along, and I don't need to be constantly messaging. There's no communications that get lost in translation. So then once I do that, I actually get them all together to start getting ready for camp. So I do have them for choreography, for our two dances. And then after that, we'll start preparing for camp the following week. And then that's really where they start getting a better feel and understanding of what the year is going to be like, and really getting to know each other, because that I think is one of the most important things. I mean, camp is the first real bonding activity that we do.
Yeah, and I really believe that camp is where the dancers get a feel of what this is what we're going to be doing. This is what, dance team is all about. And I know that every team goes to different camps, and some, do UDA, some do other kind of camps, some do private camps, and that's great. Although camp, I think, is great all across. But that's where the dancer first gets an idea, okay, this is what we're going to be expected to do. This is what it's going to be like. That, yeah, there's fun, but it's not all fun. There's a lot of hard work. There's long hours. You might start on a dance team and you may have been the best dancer at your studio and the best dancer the dance team that you were at before. And now here you come and there's 25 people just as good as you.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts it in perspective for the dancers to know, okay, well, now this is what it's all about. And I have had kids who we go to camp, and at the end of camp, they're like, I don't think this is for me. That's happened to me before, and I totally understand. And I do say that at my first parent meeting, this is a lot. If your child can't handle it, as a parent, you can't handle it, you need to let me know. I'd rather you tell me now and open up the spots for the next kid to come in, or to make your kid suffer throughout the year than to force them to do it and then realize it's too much later on.
For sure.
And also, if you don't make the decision, you do decide to stick through it, you need to stick through it. So at least me as a parent to my child, you got to follow through. You don't like it, that's fine, but you made the choice to do this. Now you're going to finish it, and you're going to do the whole year. You've committed to it, finish the commitment. I think that if you don't pull out right in the beginning and say, okay, I can't do this, and you're like, oh yeah, we'll see, and then come December, you're like, I can't do this, too late. You need to follow through, and you need to finish, because now people are relying on you. So once you make the team, it's important to see what you've gotten yourself into now. Okay, this is where expectations are, and can I follow through? Am I going to be able to commit to this? Am I going to be able to keep up with my grades, have my social life, do my studio requirements, all those other things, and do this? Is it too much for me, or is this something that I could handle? And then make the decisions at that point, and seeing what you can and can't do. I also tell them right at that point, I try to instill in them hard work and work ethic. It's not about winning, and it's not about being the winning team. It's about the process to be the winning team. Competition just be competition. We should get there, and it should be second nature. It's everything that leads up to being that competitive kid. All those little steps, those are the important steps, and that's what we need to work on. And so from day one, understanding that work ethic is the most important thing, and it just becomes second nature to be a winner. It just happens because you've trained this whole time to be a winner without knowing that that's what you were training for.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, I think camp too is a great place for you to learn that showmanship too.
Yeah.
And one thing I love about UDA and UDA camp is that they really emphasize that things like, we're not here, like you said, to win. We're here for each other, to build the teams, and then for you all to get to know each other's teams. And I think that one of the most beautiful things about camp is that all of these teams get to bond with each other too. UDA does a great job of mixing kids in. There's 2 from this team, 2 from this team, 3 from this team, and they're all going to take a class together, and they're all going to learn a routine together, and then they're going to partner up together, nobody from the same team. And then they do things like drill downs, and that's so much fun. And then, UDA is great about making sure that you're following the rules, that you aren't doing anything that you're not supposed to. And it's such a great way for kids to learn that you're no longer in that studio competition world of, you're a solo dancer, you're here for you. You're here now for your team. You're a representation of your school, representation of your team. And we're just all here to cheer each other on.
Yeah, camp used to be a lot harder. Camp, many years ago, they would teach A routine, B routine, C routine, and then D was a fun routine. Mm-hmm. So the dancers actually learned 4 routines while they were there, and they were evaluated on all 4 routines. And the stress that they went through that third night to prep for all the dances that they, were going to be evaluated on the following day was so stressful. It was crazy. I enjoyed because look at me, the masochist. I enjoyed it because I got to see my kids really work hard for those dances. So it was a lot that they learned in 2 days. They still had like the little master class here and there, but really the emphasis was on choreography. It was these long routines, the different styles, and I was able to put my dancers in every different style. So, they got to do one kick, one jazz, one contemporary, one hip hop, they got to do more styles and a variety so I could see what they were good at and, what they needed to work on. So I enjoyed that. The kids probably didn't enjoy it as much because it was a lot of stress. I mean, if you think about now that they're stressing them on, they learn one dance, they get evaluated on, then they learn that they got to do that team one, which is probably a lot of stress because they've got to choreograph.
Yeah, I feel like that's the one that they put the most stress on because they need to choreograph and do the staging.
And stuff. So I do enjoy that. Again, what they used to do was your officers did that routine. So they had, it was like, let's say 4 or 5 officers. You could put up to like 7, I think. And they would learn the dance and they would have to restage it. So that was one of the 4 that they had to learn. So that they used to do that anyway. But now they do the whole team. I guess it's a stress having to do, the formations and all that. And it's cool to watch the dancers put that together. But I really liked watching my kids be so focused on remembering all these dances, and I would be able to see these kids are good with choreography, these pick it up quickly, these need more work. And that was a great way for me to kind of like, set my kids and say, I need to do this with these, have to do this with these, and with these. It also gave me an opportunity to see them in the different styles, which I don't get to do that now. I mean, I try to put them in what I think that they're going to be best at. I do love going to the master's camp because I do love they bring in these master teachers, and they're really good master teachers. And I think to me that's so worth it. But I do miss them having that stress of having to learn several dances and be evaluated as an individual and as a team in those dances.
Well, and one thing I love about that team routine too is it gives me a chance to see the people that are potential officers, see how they run the team, because they're really the ones that are taking the reign. I'm somewhat hands-on with that team routine. I know that you're very hands-off. I like I'll give them like a set of formations.
Well, I'm not very hands-off. But what I do is I do need to see that my officers can handle it. So I will give them feedback. They'll do certain things. We'll do a little bit of formations together, and then it's on them to make it happen.
Right. Yeah, and that's I give them like a set of, these are the formations that I see happening in this, whatever, and then they'll execute. And it's a really good way for me to see the way that they communicate with the other team members, the way they communicate with each other. The way that they execute what I want them to do. Because the big thing is the communication between coach and officer, officer to team, team to officer, whatever it is. So I really enjoy that team routine. And I like that in Masters, they make it a lot harder.
Yeah.
They make it more difficult, so it challenges them a lot more. I see those kids stressing out so much every time, and I love it, and they love it.
Imagine what it was like when it was 4 dances that they had to learn. That was so stressful.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of teams also do like private camps. Yes. Where they, it's geared towards their team, and I think that that's great also. A lot of teams do leadership camps for just their officers, and they take them to a camp that focuses on helping them be better leaders. I do that with my dancers myself, so I don't need to take them to a camp. But I think that that is a great thing to do if you have officers and you're a coach who's just starting out. Getting your officers to go to a leadership camp or do some type of leadership training is great because you want to make sure that your officers are strong leaders, and not just leaders for a few minutes, that they can lead the entire year and do a good job. But again, these are all things that when you are auditioning to be on a team, that you want to have in the back of your mind. Do I want to be an officer one day? If I want to be an officer one day, looking at what's happening and what you could contribute to be a good leader for those teams. So all those things play a part in when you're looking at different teams, and you're trying out or you're picking. Because like here in Miami, there's so many schools to pick from. That there are kids who literally are, okay, do I go to my home school and I can be on the dance team there? Do I audition to be in Coral Reef and get into the Magnet program and audition to be on Coudet? Do I go to private school? There's so many private schools now that, do I go to private school and, go to the dance team in these private schools? They have so many options that if they're in 7th, 8th grade, they should be looking at all these different schools to be able to know this is really what I want to be doing before, because once you try out, once you make that choice and you go and you try out for something, there's no backing out and saying, okay, forget it, I'm going to go to the private school instead.
Yeah.
You have to know this ahead of time, and you have to know exactly which one you want. So when that opportunity comes and you do get to do your tryout, you've picked what was best for you.
Yes.
And that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, that's something that you have to take some time looking into. So highly suggest answers. Do your research. Know what you are looking at. Know these are the teams I like. These are the teams I would like to be a part of. Don't just look at what happens at competition, because that doesn't, it's not 100% of what the team is about. Look at what they do before competition, throughout the year, school spirit stuff, outside performances that they do, and see, is this what I want to do? Because it's not just going to a competition, going to a nationals, are they the winning team, or they're the ones that I want to go to? It's everything that goes with it. Because, one year they win, one year they don't. And you can't base picking a team just because that's what happened this past year. Yeah,
and I mean, we've talked about this in previous episodes, but you need to have that school pride, whatever team you're going to, especially if you're one that's, part of a spirit program. So I know that you cheer on sometimes, you do pep rallies, things like that. We cheer on, we're an all-girls school, so we cheer on our brother school. So we also, perform at their pep rallies. We also do, sometimes we'll perform at a game. We're part of a spirit program too, so we also represent our school. We represent in, we're part of what pumps up the crowd. We are the ones that are, we have the big LA with Lord's, basically tattooed across our bodies. If you don't like the school that you're going to, or you're not excited about the school that you're going to, being part of a spirit program isn't going to help you, because at all times you are the face of the school. And especially when you're a dancer or a cheerleader, whatever it is, you are supposed to be with a big smile on your face at all time, chanting the team that you're a part of.
And that's so important for college. That's so important for colleges, because again, some kids are just looking at, oh my gosh, look, they won at nationals, I want to be a part of that. And being on the national stage is tiny little part of what you do throughout the year.
Especially for college,
because they are on the field. I mean, they are the game day. Most of these colleges, the spirit program doesn't care as much about nationals as much as they care about you being on the spirit field and really cheering on the school. So that game day look is so important, and you have to have that, and you need to know what their look is and what they want from you, and what their team is like. And when I say look, I mean that they are smiling, bubbling, loving the team, loving the school. All those things play a part of it. So you have to love the school that you're choosing, and you should look into it. I mean, if you're looking at colleges now, dancers, start looking at what programs are there, what their dance teams do, what extra performances they do football games, they do basketball game, they do a volleyball game, they do alumni events, they do extra stuff, for promotion purpose. All those things, you want to know that if they do that, are you okay at being a part of all that before you try out?
And not just being a part of it, but time commitment. That takes so much extra time. A lot of times we have to go to these pep rallies during school hours, and these kids are required to make up whatever work that they miss, and you have to find time to do that. Or sometimes we have to be a part of an activity that is after school, and maybe your studio is very strict, you want to dedicate more time to your studio versus your school program. So you have to really understand, especially with the time commitment too, if you're willing to take on all that extra work as well, aside from your calendar days, weekly practices that end at 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I think that middle school coaches, If you are a middle school coach for a dance team, those are the babies. Those are the ones that you're kind of like molding to continue, in this world. And it's so important that when they're that young that you're helping them choose, make those choices to go to the right high school and continue in that path, that you're helping discipline these kids so that when they get into these high schools, they're already disciplined and they know what the work ethic is, and what is expected from these coaches. And then the same thing for the high school coaches, helping get those kids into these colleges and opening their eyes to all the opportunity that there are, to be able to go to these great colleges and perform in these dance teams and be a part of that, because this dance team culture is just, I can't talk enough about it. To me, there's nothing like it. And the more I talk to different coaches and to different dancers who continue doing this throughout their career, I know that it's a special group, and if you get to be a part of it, don't take it for granted.
And we're all here helping each other. Like, I think that's one of the great things about dance team is that we're all here for each other. You and me might compete against each other in one competition, but we're here to cheer each other on. We're here to help each other. You're always giving me advice. I'm helping you with whatever it is. And that goes across the board. And you're right. I mean, especially for these middle school kids, and then eventually the high school kids to colleges, coaches, so important to also be educated on these other teams as well. So, if you have kids that that they want to end up at Coral Reef, or that they want to end up at Lourdes, or they want to go to a school that doesn't have a dance, whatever it is, I think that being educated on those other schools, those other programs, even having communication with those other coaches is such a good idea, because it also helps you prepare them, not just talent-wise, but in their everyday attitude towards it, like you were saying.
Yeah, they're feeder patterns. I mean, it's what you are. You're feeding your middle school kids into these high schools, and the high schools into the colleges. Connect with those coaches. So if you're a middle school coach, connect with your high school coaches that are nearby and ask them, what are you looking for? How can I help my dancers get into your programs? I have several middle school coaches from the area that they'll reach out to me and tell me, I have these kids auditioning, I highly recommend them. What can they do? Where should they go? What prep classes are going on? And they'll reach out and they'll ask me, and I'll give them as much feedback as I can, like, go do this, look at this. And those kids are just so much more prepared when they come to my tryouts, because those coaches help prepare them.
Right.
So definitely your feeder patterns. I mean, look at your schools and what's around you and connect with those coaches. I think that high school, you could do that with the colleges. We've talked about Tribe 99 and how great they are with getting the college coaches out there. Prodigy does it as well. Go to the convention, go to the Tribe event, and put yourself out there. Go meet these coaches so that when it comes time to your students wanting to go to these colleges, you have a relationship with the coach, even if it's just from like, hi, I'm so-and-so from this school, so great to meet you. That coach is going to remember if they have one of your kids coming, you're like, hi, I met you in this so-and-so place. I have this student coming, I highly recommend them, or, what should they do? The coaches will remember, and having that communication is going to help your dancers. And that's why we're here. We're here to help these dancers fulfill their dreams and get from point A to point B to point C to being successful.
Provide them the most and best opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, dancers, this helped you get you ready for your tryouts. Make sure that you go onto social media, check out all those teams that you're interested in, DM those coaches, DM those teams, and anything you need, you can DM us, and we're ready to help you.
And if you like what you heard today, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. And if you have any feedback or questions for us, feel free to click on our link tree and fill out our Google form.
Great having you here today. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.